that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Oh, I got to turn your mic on if you want to.
Yeah.
If we want everybody to hear you, we got to have that on.
I get there. That's much better. Get to hear myself.
We're having technical issues again this morning, but it seems like we got most of the bugs worked out.
Yep. No people will tamely surrender their liberties. No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued. When knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, on the other hand, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign influence. Sounds like something I'd say.
You didn't say
Sounds
that.
like something
huh?
I've been saying, yeah.
Who said
A fellow
that?
by the name of Samuel Adams said that.
I heard about him once. He makes beer, right?
Yeah. It takes a village to raise an idiot, and we are raising a bunch of them.
We're doing a good job, aren't we? Raising idiots.
Join Mr. Anderson and myself today as we exhibit how our government-run schools, misguided politicians, and overzealous courts and big pharma and have purposely corrupted our youth and our morals. Special guest constitutional scholar Keith Broders will be joining us shortly. Every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time, Christian Talk Radio with a sting.
Ouch!
Do radio, folks. Do radio. We encourage you to do here.
Do something.
Yep. You got to stand up. You got to stand up. www.lastcallradio.live for your viewing pleasure. I'm going to start off this morning with some good news, Mr. Anderson.
Well, that's rare.
Mm-hmm.
That's rare.
This is an article about a Loudoun County, Virginia elementary school teacher who was placed on administrative leave in May for refusing to affirm with us. What in God's name is the matter with us? This elementary teacher was kicked out of the classroom for not affirming transgender identity in children. We're going to have to be introducing you all folks to the term natural because we're blinded. It's out there. You didn't need the Bible to know the difference between right and wrong. You can see it. You know, if you stick your finger in that socket, you only have to do it one time, right? The natural response is you're not going to stick your finger in that socket again. Brian Tanner Cross, who teaches physical education at Leesburg Elementary School, secured a temporary injunction from Judge James Plowman in his lawsuit against Loudoun County Public Schools, according to an announcement from Alliance Defending Freedom, good folks, which defended him. Tanner Cross, a Virginia elementary school teacher and ADF client, was suspended for raising concerns to the board about a proposed gender policy, which got him suspended, but he has just won the temporary injunction, and the judge has ordered his reinstatement. We're crazy. And the judge's opinion, judges give opinions, don't they? They don't make laws; they give opinions. Isn't that correct, Mr. Anderson?
That's what I think it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. In the judge's opinion,
But it should follow the law.
yep, the schools should, well, God's law. In the judge's opinion, the school system suspension was unconstitutional, and its handling of the situation was vindictive. You're going to hear a lot today, tomorrow, through the week, over the past couple years, about authorities agreeing on things. The medical community agrees on this. And that's because if you have a question, not a disagreement, if you have a question, you're outed. I mean, out of the situation. You don't have an opportunity to say anything or to speak. You're just out of here, gone. The umpire throws you out. Don't question my authority. The judge's opinion, the school system suspension was unconstitutional, and the handling of the situation was vindictive. The school argued that it suspended Cross not for his beliefs, he's a Christian, but because of the disruption he allegedly caused in the classroom. Oh my goodness. Telling the kids the truth.
We're talking about elementary age.
Mm-hmm.
They even know what he's talking about.
But Plowman said there was simply a absence of evidence that any disruption to the school operations took place. So good news. The good guys win one, at least temporarily.
Well, it's got a segue to this short video I have of another teacher speaking out, if you're interested.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it.
Fairfax County Public School teacher, and I'm going to give a message of encouragement to parents and teachers and students who are too afraid to come and speak forward. Parents, the longer that you wait and you don't hold your child's schools accountable gives these guys more time to dictate what's best for your child's physical, mental, and emotional health. Don't be afraid to speak out for your kids because they are voiceless and they rely on you. You should be afraid of them rooting for socialism by the time they get to middle school. Teachers, it may seem that our careers have come to a dead end, but I'm here to remind you, we don't work for the school board. We work to mold the next generation of well-rounded American patriots. So don't give up because it is up to us. Students, you are on the front lines of these indoctrination camps. Challenge the staff when you're presented with a ludicrous statement, and do not allow anybody to tell you that you cannot accomplish anything because of your skin color or to hate yourself because of your skin color. Students, it is up to you to be the next generation of victims or victors. And finally, to the board, this isn't over, and your policies are just as pathetic as making us wear a mask.
Nick Gofford, followed by Ryan.
This is C.
Exhibit A. They took her off.
Mm-hmm.
If you make decisions based on information, if you only have a limited information, a limited view, what decision are you going to make? If that's all you hear, if that's all you see. By the way, our children are watching. Oh yeah, they're watching. They're watching. And they're not that dumb. They're indoctrinated, but they're still not that dumb. Good for the parents. I mean, we had a great couple on our show a couple of weeks ago. Good for them. But we have to keep doing this. I went to school board meetings for 10 years. 10 years. As a parent, but also as a concerned citizen. And for the most part, there was no second to any notion that I made. And they would make fun of you if you dare challenge teachers, because after all, teachers are, Mr. Anderson, you might want to close your ears here. Teachers are subject to being wrong. Yeah, they can be wrong. We send our kids off to government-run schools, indoctrination centers. We tell them to respect authority. Then the schools take that authority and they question what the parents are teaching the children. So what's a child to do? Are they confused? Of course they are. But you keep telling them you have to, what? Respect authority. Then what happens? You kind of lead the way to anarchy with the confusion, or the kids adopt the state as their daddy. Both cases being just ugly, 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 ugly. It's incredible, my friends, that what we've done to our children. I raise my hand up in the air. I tried to stop it. I haven't stopped yet. I'm dealing in different circles now, different areas. COVID, by the way, has offered us a tremendous opportunity to make a difference. And it's also gotten parents moving. There's a little bit of momentum here. But like the Tea Party, if it dies, then we're twice as bad off as we were to begin with. Is that you or me, Mr. Anderson?
You.
Was it? I don't even think I have. Yeah, I do. Okay. Maybe we're not broadcasting or not being able to hear it. Let's see what we got here. If anybody's saying anything. Nah.
I think we're doing good.
Yep. So what we have here is not a failure to communicate, because our enemy is communicating. One-sided. Go ahead.
Relentlessly.
Yep, and one-sided information.
Oh, I was muted. I said relentlessly.
Yeah.
They're just bombarding us with their agenda.
It's this is just absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Hey, we are going to take a break in about, okay, I guess we got about 4 more minutes. So what do you think about what's going on in America today? But more importantly, what are you doing about it? Are you sitting by waiting for the pendulum to swing back? Again, it may swing back, but that leverage point that it's swinging on, the point has been moved to the left once, and then again, and then again, and then again, to the point where our children don't know the difference between right and wrong.
They don't.
And they question parental authority all the time, because parents, most of us, grew up and knew the truth.
And we're old fashioned or archaic.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means. Yeah, it means that we don't know anything because we're old.
Yeah.
We have old ideas
Speak for yourself.
that used to work.
Yep. What we knew, and what we still know today is natural law. Natural law does not change. I always use the example, if you step off a cliff, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, you're going down. The same thing applies with spiritual laws, as well as the physical laws, momentum, inertia, gravity. It all is very objective, and we need to test the truth against that. First of all, we need to get the information to be able to test it. That's the problem right now. We can't even get the information to test it. This thing with COVID just is so exemplary in terms of how you can control information. He who controls the information controls the world. But as Samuel Adams said, and I'm going to repeat before we go to break, no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can they be easily subdued. Keep that in mind. If you know what's going on, you see what's going on, you're not going to have anything to do with it. When knowledge is diffused, filtered, and virtue is not preserved, then you got problems. We live in an amoral nation. Right and wrong have been redefined, and then redefined, and then redefined. Will it ever come back? I don't think so. It's kind of off on a tangent. I don't think it's circular. I don't think the pendulum's going to swing back. When people are universally ignorant or brainwashed and debauched in their manners, transgender, gay marriage, abortion, child abuse, spousal abuse, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of any kind of foreign invasion. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson. When we come back, we're going to talk to a special guest this morning. Keith Broders, who has noticed natural laws as well as constitutional laws.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Well, good morning, Terry. It's good to hear from you this morning. See ya. Did we lose again? There are so many questions coming in. There's so many questions, so many opinions when it comes to our Constitution. I thought that's a good idea to bring Brother Keith Broders on board today. Keith, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm muted. You can't hear.
Can you hear me?
And now we get the echo. Yeah, we can hear you. Welcome to Last Call, Keith.
Okay.
So I'd have to unmute here.
No.
You got it? No, it's still echoing.
That's delay.
Well, whatever it is. Keith, it takes a village to raise an idiot. You agree with that statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a famous takeoff on a quote by Hillary Clinton, where she basically proposed the idea that it takes a village to raise a child. It doesn't take righteous parents, it takes a village.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Keith, you've been dabbling in the Constitution for a while and constitutional law. What have you learned that might be able to help us out today? What have you seen that has been happening?
Well, I think what we need to recognize the fact that there's two philosophies that exist in the world today. One is a philosophy of individualism, and one is a philosophy known as collectivism. And when our republic was formulated, our founding fathers wanted to create a government that would be governed by law, not by the will and the whims of the majority. They wanted to create a government where the rights of the people would be forever secure. And they went to great lengths to create something known as a federal government. A federal government is a government where the political power is divided between the states and the national government. And in our republic, the superior position was held by the states. The states were the master, and the central government was the servant of the states. But there was a certain number of the founding fathers who did not want to create a more perfect union. They wanted to create a more powerful nation. They wanted to create an empire that would rival that of the Roman Empire. And in order to achieve their objective, they had to basically undo the Constitution. They had to, instead of educating the people and the elected officials, they needed to indoctrinate the people to accept the form of government that they were creating. They wanted to create a government where the few could control the many. And unfortunately, over the years, they've accomplished their objectives. Our republic was basically destroyed and was replaced by a nation. Everybody seems to think that being a nation is a good thing. Well, a nation is not a good thing, because a nation is based on principles that are not of a republican nature. In a nation, the nation is governed by the will of the majority or the will of an oligarchy. In either case, individual rights don't really exist.
Keith, can you okay?
Pardon
I don't know
me?
whether you can- Keith, in the beginning, we had a group of states that recognized the value of unity, yet they wanted to keep their own sovereignty. And then you had another group of people that saw an opportunity to concentrate power after they unionized. Is that a pretty sound statement?
Yes, I believe that that's true. I believe that that's essentially what happened. You had two different philosophical positions. There were people who wanted to create a more perfect union, with the states being superior, and there was another group that wanted to have a very strong, powerful national government that would have the ability to be able to control the people and their wealth.
So you have one group of folks that are smart enough to know the harm that a lot of power can do, and they wanted to restrain that power and give that power back to the people and to the states. But the Constitution reads, to the state and then the people, or the people, I think is what it says. That is a little confusing from a liberty freedom standpoint. How did you understand that, Keith? Am I understanding that properly?
I think so. The founders really understood that power corrupts, and that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and they needed to decentralize. They needed to decentralize the power. They need to spread the power out. They created separation of powers. They created checks and balances. They created various different mechanisms designed to limit the potential abuse of power by the central government. And one of the very most important parts of that was the ability of the states to prevent the federal government from abusing the power. And frankly, there were three major clauses of the Constitution that needed to be misinterpreted in order for those who favored collectivism to be able to take charge. The necessary and proper clause of the Constitution, the supremacy clause, the general welfare clause, and the commerce clause are all clauses in the Constitution that have been deliberately misinterpreted in order to grant more and more power to the central government and less power to the states and to the individuals.
Okay. So you mentioned the magic words there. Let me find that. Okay. Necessary and proper.
Well,
two very important words.
In the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, it basically states that the Congress has the power to legislate and to take action that is necessary and proper. But that isn't an unlimited power. It is limited to the fact that the only things that they can, that is considered to be necessary and proper, is to the carrying out of the foregoing delegated powers. An example that I would use would be this. Let's say, for example, you're a parent, you have a teenage son, and you say to the son, we're going to give you the opportunity to have the keys to the car when it is necessary and proper. When there is an emergency, you have the right to use the car. Well, the power to use the car is determined by the parents, not by the child. The same thing as far as our government is concerned. The things that are necessary and proper, they're not the things that are necessary and proper according to our servants. They're the things that are necessary and proper according to the employers. That is, we the people. We are the ones who determine what is necessary and what is proper. And the only things that are necessary and proper are the things that are necessary in order to fulfill the delegated powers. Giving the power of Congress to determine what is necessary and proper is like giving the keys to your liquor cabinet to a thirsty alcoholic.
I love that. So we wanted to limit the power, the ability of the federal to control individual behavior from way off in Washington, D.C. Yet, what we see today is exactly like the founders were trying to avoid.
Well, the Constitution was written to govern the government, not to govern the people. And in order for the people to govern the government, the people need to be sufficiently educated on the Constitution and the principles of liberty. And our public schools are doing everything they possibly can to keep the American voters ignorant and uninformed, because an ignorant and uninformed voter is much easier to deceive than someone who knows their rights and their responsibilities under the Constitution and under the laws of nature and nature's God. Our schools are deliberately dumbing down the American people. And frankly, I believe that the greatest threat to the survival of our culture and our society, the greatest threat is the uneducated and ignorant voter. We need to educate people on these principles. We need to make sure that we, the uneducated, ignorant voters, don't elect ignorant and uneducated representatives. And that's exactly what's happening. It's like the blind are leading the helpless.
Boy, that seems awful difficult to do given the two-party system now, because you have a duopoly in terms of who gets into office.
Well, the thing about the two-party system, which is so inherently evil and wrong, is if there's two parties, one is going to be the majority and one is going to be the minority, which basically means that there will be a tyranny of the majority. The party that has the most political power will basically have the authority and the right to deprive the minority of their God-given rights. And so the whole idea of a two-party system is inherently immoral and unrighteous. George Washington warned us that the political factions would cause the destruction of this form of government. He wrote this in his farewell address. You still there?
Wait a minute.
Is that any better, Keith?
We having a technical difficulty?
I think our host removed himself from the program.
I didn't do anything.
No, our host, not our guest.
Oh,
You didn't do anything.
Can you hear me now,
Yeah.
Keith?
BJ left the room. He's got to come back in.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm back in, I think.
Keith still can't hear me?
yeah. Can you speak a little louder?
Okay.
Turn up the volume a little bit.
I
All right.
With the mic
Like closer.
So we have
So we have a conundrum right now.
we have
Government
run education and
run
indoctrination
education and
centers
doctors
that are pounding
our
students
students
with
with
CRT,
CRT right now.
But prior
But
to
prior
that,
to that,
were taught that life has no
that
meaning.
life has no meaning.
Morals are relative.
Morals are relative.
Man, not God, is the
Man,
measure
not
of all.
God, is the measure of all things.
The state is their
And
dad.
the state is their daddy.
And bang,
And
bang,
bang, bang, bang, bang.
we have
We have
coming
students coming back
that are now voting.
that are now voting for communism.
I don't. How do you?
Keith, how do you
we can't
possibly stop? We can't
everybody.
homeschool everybody.
Even then, I'm not too.
Even
awfully
then,
sure
I'm
that
not
would-
too awfully sure that would work.
So what kind of
So
resolve
what kind of resolve
you
do
propose?
you propose or do you have in mind?
Well, I think that, frankly, we need to take responsibility. We need to understand that with liberty comes responsibility. And everybody wants to be free, but nobody wants to be responsible. Everybody wants a benevolent king or a government to basically take care of them and to fulfill
We're getting
their
an echo
duties and
effect.
responsibilities. The government was created to protect our rights, not to provide us with other people's things. We need to take responsibility to educate our children. We need to teach them the principles of righteousness. We need to teach them how to become moral and upstanding, productive individuals, members of society. If you go back to the very beginning, how many children had to go to school to learn to be toilet trained? How many children needed to go to school to learn to tie their shoes or to ride a bike? So many of the things that happen in life happen on a natural basis. Learning and education is a natural phenomenon, but it becomes artificial when we send kids to a prison camp for 13 years to be indoctrinated by a system that has a vested interest in keeping the people incapable of critical thought.
Amen to that. Is the Supreme Court behaving badly?
Well, first off, let's go back to the Article 3 of the Constitution. It basically defines the role and responsibility of the Supreme Court. If you'll read through Article 3, you'll find there is nothing in there that gives the Supreme Court the authority to determine what is and what is not constitutional. This power is known as the power of judicial review. It is a power that was invented by the Supreme Court. It's a power that they gave to themselves. The power to interpret the Constitution is one of the powers that is reserved to the states according to the 10th Amendment. All power and authority not delegated in the Constitution to the government of the United States or to the judicial, executive, or legislative branch of government is reserved to the states and the people. Therefore, the power to determine what is and what is not constitutional is rightfully an authority that belongs to the states themselves. And when the states had senators chosen by the legislatures of the states had the ability to control their senators so that the senators would basically be able to determine the constitutionality of federal action. And so when the 17th Amendment was unlawfully ratified, it basically stripped the states of their ability to hold the federal government accountable. The 17th Amendment is an unlawful amendment. It is unconstitutional. In Article 5 of the Constitution, it specifically states that that no state can be denied its equal suffrage in the Senate without their consent. I don't think that can be interpreted in many ways. What it's saying is that if one of the states is denied its suffrage in the Senate, that amendment cannot be lawful. In other words, in 1913, when the amendment was so-called ratified, there were 48 states. And in order for the 17th Amendment to have been lawfully ratified, all 48 states would have needed to give their consent to the surrendering of their right to be represented in the Senate. Today, there are 7 states. There is Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, Utah. These states and Florida have never given their consent to give up their right to be represented in the Senate. Their constitutional rights are being ignored and violated. And those states, frankly, have every right to basically use the principle of nullification to say that in our state, we are not going to abide by the provisions of an unconstitutional amendment. We have not given our consent, and therefore we are not going to comply. In the future, we will continue to elect our senators by the legislatures of our states. The direct election of senators in our state, henceforth and forever, will be terminated. That's what should happen.
Keith? Can you hear me? Still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You need to move your camera down just a shade because we're looking at a talking head right now, Okay, there we go. And I appreciate it, brother. So, talk a little bit about the 17th Amendment. Why don't you go into a little more detail about that, if you would, please?
Well, again, the progressive era began during the presidency, essentially, of Theodore Roosevelt. And in the year 1913 turned out to be the worst year in the history of our country, because that is the year that our republic came to an end. And that is when our government became a national government. The federal government ceased to be, because at that particular point in time, we had the Federal Reserve Act. We had the 17th Amendment, the 16th Amendment. These were all passed during this progressive era. And that during this period of time, essentially, our republic came to an end, and we became a nation basically ruled by the will of the mob and by the will of the bankers and the Wall Street corporations. So basically, that's when the final nail was driven into our coffin as an independent set of sovereign states. The place where we are now is we are a government now that is not governed by we the people. It's governed by we the bankers and the Wall Street corporations. They are calling the shots, and they have a vested interest in controlling the media and the schools, because this helps them to be able to basically to indoctrinate the public to think the things they're supposed to think and to believe the things they're supposed to believe. Being a critical thinker is not something that is encouraged. Public schools teach conformity and obedience. They don't want people to question authority or to think for themselves. This would be considered a sin in the public school system.
Congress money can buy.
Every seat in Congress is purchased. One of the things that I believe is also very important to realize is the fact that when the Founding Fathers created the bicameral legislature, they created one house to represent the people and one house to represent the states, because they wanted to have a check and a balance. They wanted the states to be able to check the abuse of power by the people and vice versa. And frankly, when they created the House of Representatives, they decided that this would be a house that would be elected directly by the people. But one of the foundations of the House of Representatives was that every state was to be proportionately represented. What that means by proportional representation is that every state should have their representation based on their population. There needed to be a ratio between the number of people and the number of representatives. And this number had to be consistent between all of the states. Today, we do not have proportional representation. We have a representation which is based on the size of the building that existed when the Congress was frozen at the number of 435. Not all states are.
It was a lower number too.
In the case of Wyoming, they have 576,000 people in Wyoming. They have one representative. Well, the state of Florida has one representative for every 876,000 people. In other words, 300,000 people in each of the 27 districts in Florida are not being counted for the purpose of representation. There was a time in our nation's history when only 3/5 of a certain race of people were counted for apportionment. Well, now 300,000 people in Florida of all races, creeds, and colors are being denied equal representation in the House of Representatives. This is absolutely wrong. This is immoral, it's unrighteous, and it grants to the federal government power that belongs to the people and to the states. This needs to be changed. We need to have every congressional district in America has to be the same size in order for every state to be equally represented. If we had one representative for every 50,000, we would have somewhere around 6,000 representatives. If we had one representative for every 100 people, we'd have around 3,200 representatives. But we need to reduce the size of the congressional districts in order to increase the voice of the people and to diminish the power of the Wall Street bankers and corporations and their ability to purchase the seats on Capitol Hill.
Money's kind of like water. it seeks the lowest level, and there's always seems to be seepage somewhere. And I understand, and I see what's happening in America today, and where money is influencing what our nation's doing. Even if we change the process, and if we made it 1-to-1, I still think we're going to have an issue because of our moral plight.
Well, if you had one representative for every person, you would have a pure democracy. And a pure democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where the majority has the ability to strip the rights away from the minority. The Founding Fathers did not want too much representation. But on the other hand, they didn't want a dictatorship or an oligarchy either. They wanted to strike a balance between too much and too little representation. They originally decided that 30,000 was the proper ratio, 30,000 constituents, one representative. That was what their original intent was. You can read that article, the 55th and 56th paper in the Federalist Papers talks about representation in the House. And frankly, one of the biggest problems we have in the country today has to do with racism and inequality. Well, inequality begins, frankly, with the representation of the people in the House of Representatives. That's
Keith, I'm trying to,
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try something and see if this works. I want to make sure that you can still hear me, and let me know when you can't hear me. Okay?
All right.
It's still echoes. I muted him. Keith, you.
No, mute you.
Well, if I'm talking.
Mute
okay.
You.
All right. Okay. Well,
No.
Keith, you have a website?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's called constitutioneducation.us. Constitutioneducation.us. The whole goal of this website is to provide people with an opportunity to educate themselves, not to be indoctrinated by somebody else and not to be influenced by other people. We want people to be able to think for themselves, to use the God-given power of discernment to be able to learn the facts and to be able to come to their own conclusions. This website believes in the philosophy expressed by Benjamin Franklin when he said, "Tell me and I will forget. Teach me and I might remember. Engage me and I will learn." This website is designed to have people educate themselves by reading or listening to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, to be able to participate in interactive lessons and games such as Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in Jeopardy, to be able to participate in these lessons that require active participation. Passive learning just doesn't work. Socrates once said that education is kindling a fire, not filling a vessel. And in our schools today, our school's primary job is to transfer the curriculum that the government wants the people to believe into their minds. It's complete brainwashing and indoctrination. They don't want critical thinkers. They want obedient lapdogs.
Amen to that. See that every day. Again, can you give us that website again, please?
Constitutioneducation.us.
You can see that on our
Please
screen there.
visit this website. What I would like to encourage people to do is to take the responsibility to become a constitutional educator. This nation, in order to be saved, needs to have millions of people who are able to share the gospel of liberty and the Constitution with their friends and neighbors and their children and with their grandchildren. There are, frankly, in this country right now, we have 16 million high school students, and half of them are going to be able to vote in the next election. And unfortunately, they are going to be uneducated, uninformed, and incapable of making a wise decision. We need to educate our youth. We need to take responsibility. We've got to stop trusting our schools to teach our children. We need to assume that responsibility, because that is a responsibility that was given to us by our Creator. It is completely irresponsible for a parent to assume that their children are going to be taught the correct principles in the public schools.
Yeah, I think we're rapidly coming to that, Keith, just because we haven't done anything, and we're starting to reap the rewards of that, and parents are standing up. But the keeping the momentum is going to be the hardest thing. But we get so individualized. I've got one issue, I want to get that resolved, and then I'm out of here.
What I would like to see happen is, I would like to see literally millions of American families decide to dedicate one night a week to sit down around the kitchen table and to discuss the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the principles of liberty as a family. To be able to have a grandparent challenge their grandson or granddaughter to a game of Jeopardy with questions on the Declaration of Independence, or a game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on questions pertaining to the Declaration of Independence. We need to become educated. We can't hold our government accountable if we ourselves are not educated. We need to educate ourselves. Don't trust some talking head from the Republican or Democratic parties to tell you the truth. Basically, study the scriptures, study the Bible, study the founding documents, and use the brain that God gave you.
By the way, all of those are translated into English, and that's because we can read it. All right, Keith, any party words you'd like to leave us with, brother?
Well, Thomas Jefferson said that a nation that expects to be ignorant and free expects what never was and never will be. And we need to realize that his words are true, and that we need to educate ourselves. We don't need to sit back and have somebody else. Education is not something that is given to a person. Education is something that a person has to achieve on their own. It takes effort. It takes time. And frankly, we need basically people to get actively engaged in the process of learning the Constitution so that we can hold our elected officials accountable.
Amen to that. And you are self-educated.
Absolutely.
Well-educated man is what Alicia says. And I believe you are, brother. Keith, we're going to keep you on staff for a while. Sounds like you know what you're talking about.
Well, thank you very much for being who you are, for doing what you're doing. You're a real blessing in my life and in the lives of those who listen to what you have to say. Thank
you. That's very much good. Brother, constitutional expert. Mr. Anson, can we go to a quick break here?
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Let us know. Well, we're lost again. I'm echoing again.
Well, you unmuted your mic.
Okay. I didn't touch it.
Well, everyone, it's Pride Month, and we here at the Babylon Bee News Desk want to take a moment to celebrate.
Hooray!
It's great.
What a month!
It should be Pride Year, if you ask me.
To honor all the genders, we would now like to take a moment to rank the top genders, from best to even more best.
This ranking was conducted by a wide range of experts, from doctors to those in the scientific community. So without further ado, our first gender is men. Men, what a gender. Sometimes there for you when you need them the most. Thoughtful and thoughtless, all at the same time. And they're hairy. Thank you, men, for being male.
And our next gender in our ranking of top genders is women. Wow, women. Now there's a gender. Baby makers and CEOs. The definition of strength in every way minus physicality. And not hairy at all. Women.
Moving right along, our next gender in our ranking of genders is... the next gender is... guys, go ahead and scroll the teleprompter. Next gender... What? End of the list? No more genders? That's the end of the segment? Just men and women? No other genders exist?
I thought there were like 70 genders. Oh. Then why am I always hearing about people identifying as different genders? Oh. Maybe we can make up some genders?
Make up genders. That's a great idea. Let's do that. In other news, migrant cages will be bathed in rainbow colors in honor of Pride Month. Hi, I'm Kyle Mann.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
That might bring some more listeners.
Yeah.
Hey, we're the station with good news.
Or maybe hearing me twice might bring more good. Anyway, walking tandem, each of the 92 students, thanks, Pam, with their rich maroon gowns flowing and traditional caps, filing into an already crowded auditorium. Dad swallowed hard behind the broad smiles, and moms freely blushed. But there was the woke warning, of course. This class, this graduation, would not pray during the commencement. Not by choice, mind you, but because of the recent court rulings prohibiting it. Hi, Keith. The principal and several students were careful to stay within the guidelines allowed by the ruling. They gave inspirational and challenging speeches, but no one mentioned divine guidance. And no one asked for blessings on the graduates or their families. The speeches were nice, but they were routine until the final speech received a standing ovation. Very interesting, very interesting. Here's what happened. A solitary student walked proudly up to the microphone. He stood still and silent for just a moment, and then it happened. All 92 students, every single one of them, suddenly sneezed. The student said, "God bless you." And he walked off the stage. The audience exploded into applause. The graduating class had found a unique way to invoke God's blessing on their future with or without the court's approval. I love this story. And you know what? Is it true? I mean, I could give the name of the university that lists, but it doesn't make any difference. Whether it's true or not, it should be. And it should be happening in every graduation. Folks, we have a creator. And if you don't appreciate that, then there's going to be H to pay. That's not something you wear on your head. Okay. True story, they say. I love it. I love it. I love it. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Yeah, we're here. I'm not here because I'm muted again.
Yeah, it sounds like we're having issues with the show today, and we were earlier, but don't know exactly what's causing it. I want to get to our I don't think so, Tim, which
Oh, the new feature.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think so, Tim.
Yeah. But we really should talk about the headlines because the headlines are so representative of where we are and what is happening in America. Regardless of which one you pick, it's just so telling. First headline: nobody wants to work. Job openings soar at all-time high. 9.3 million record numbers. They were paying, I think something like 52 or 45, 52, $60,000 a year to be on unemployment. Why would you go to work?
That's more than I get in retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
What? What the?
All kinds of insanity there.
Yeah, they don't want us. That's back to what Keith was sharing earlier about corporations and bankers.
Yep.
They got another agenda.
Well, this is back to the state being your father too. I mentioned this. I haven't mentioned it recently, but several times on past shows, that if there's an issue out there, and there's a problem, what is the first thing that you hear? The very first thing is, well, the government needs what? To get more involved, right? Or they need to get better at it.
There should be a law.
Yeah, there ought to be a law.
Yeah, we need another one.
Yeah. Oh, we certainly do. But you understand where we are? It's not self-reliance. It's not BJ, take care of yourself. Mr. Anderson, take care of yourself. Call the government, see what they can do for you. You know they can help. And of course, they're going to promise to help you. Just be patient. Hello, America. Good God. It won't be the last. Speaking of money, El Salvador passes bill to make Bitcoin legal tender. Money is a medium of exchange. Physically, medium of exchange. You remember the bartering system?
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to use it much, but in school we did, right?
How's that?
Oh, you traded Skittles for lifesavers, or you did
yeah.
some kind of,
Yeah.
or somebody had a little toy you liked and
Trade your lunch for it.
yeah.
That's true.
We had our own form of money in grade school.
Yep. But if you don't have an item, a bushel of corn or that lunch, if you just have thin air, which is what that you're talking about.
Yeah. Digital money.
Digital money is thin air. Here, this thin air rectangle here is worth $700. Mr. Anderson, would you please take this? Thank you. And would you go down and buy us a new computer? Because we're going to need one. Okay, just take that down.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Here, give that back to me. Just a second. Here. Get back. Thank you. I need to sign this. Hang on a second, folks. Okay, here. There. It's
Did you
signed.
use magnetic ink?
Yes, I did. I knew to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Magnetic ink.
That's what we're talking about, folks. And
Crypto money.
Yeah.
Crypto money.
And
Yeah.
what do you say to the store? Trust me. It's there. It's in there. Okay. Just trust me. It looks like nothing, but trust me.
About 15 years ago, I got involved in this I like collecting coins, and I got into buying some silver coins from time to time. And I found out about this attempt of making real money, and it was called Liberty Coins, and they were
Yeah.
minting silver coins,
Mm-hmm.
and actual 99.9% silver, and these coins were being issued, and you could go in. Some communities actually began to operate using these coins. The people behind that were taken to jail, and well, they were taken to court and then imprisoned for minting real money.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. And now there's no money at all. And the government's talking about buying into this insanity. And folks, look at they have to. The government has to because they have to control. Money is a power to make decisions. The more money you have or appear to have, the more decisions you can make. Amen. So when we had a large transfer of money from the public sector and the government sector to, let's say, the pharmaceutical end, guess what that gave the pharmaceutical end? That gave them more power to make decisions, and they're making those decisions for you, future decisions. The mask, the new vaccinations, the boosters, the new diseases that they're going to come up with, they got you. So be very, very careful. Just know that's coming, and you better find some folks that can help you out here. And if the government has control, it's going to come down to, well, BJ said that money isn't very secure because it's just a rectangular piece with supposedly a signature on it. How can I know for sure? And what's our solution? Get the government involved in it, right? Isn't that what we do? The government needs to be more involved in this. And then it'll be safe because they're from the government and they're here to help us, right? Oh boy, have we ever learned that. Okay. Biden administration announces supply chain disruptions task force. The government's getting more involved.
Wait a minute.
Supply chain disruptions task force. We've had supply chain issues.
I've noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to figure that out on the way here, my son-in-law and I, because he's trying to work with getting new automobiles into the dealership.
Yeah.
And we're like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we need the government to figure that out for us, don't we?
The problem is that we didn't pay attention to the laws, econ laws, business laws. When you export all of your manufacturing away from your country, those people that are nearest to that manufacturing production, whether it be prescription drugs or microchips, they have control over that. You don't any longer. So you saved a bunch of money. You thought shipping it overseas, but now when it's going to cost you 3 times or 4 times or 10 times the amount to get it back, then what? What have you gained?
Even more. What have you lost?
Yep. Greed.
Another headline?
Yes. Here's some more on the economy. Were the cyber attacks on essential fuel and food industries planned? Now, how are we going to find that out? How are we going to find that out, Mr. Anderson? Who would be looking at? Oh, wait a minute. The government would be doing that, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah.
Isn't that the natural? Yeah.
We need the government to look into that.
Yeah.
Even though they're causing it, but
yeah, right. You were a teacher. Never mind. I won't go there. I
don't know how to think for myself. Sorry.
5 signs that America's raging inflation crisis is accelerating. And from the Last Call Health Department, we offer this. A group of Houston Methodist nurses walked out this week over COVID-19 vaccine requirements. The clock's ticking for the 178 hospital workers suspended for not getting vaccinated. Folks, this is government-run healthcare. They are forcing you. Well, no, they're not. The government isn't doing that. The business is. Where's the government protection from this? You want them in everything else. Where's the government protection from being forced, being mandated to have a vaccine, being forced to wear a mask? They have pumped, the government has pumped billions of dollars into ads and into promotions and into organizations that they pay for to get subjective figures out of. Billions of dollars
Of our money.
of our taxpayer money to affect public opinion, to scare the bejeevers out of businesses who are afraid if they don't require masks or require vaccinations, they won't be able to do any business. They've controlled the public opinion on this and made it impossible for you to make a free, almost impossible for you to make a free choice. I say impossible because down the road, within a year, I think it's going to be a fact unless we stop it now. By the way, like we're doing here, start doing this at the local level. Forget about the federal government. But the federal government has pumped
Oh my goodness.
billions of dollars into this, okay? And then they're going, whoa, we didn't pass any law. We didn't pass any law. We didn't have anything to do with that. No, they did that on their own.
We just gave them money to do that.
You know, it costs millions of dollars to have an ad on the Super Bowl. Why is that? Because ads have power, don't they? Promotions have power.
Well, what about that lottery thing that they're doing in somewhere in Ohio?
$1 million if you get the jab.
If you get the jab, you get your name in the hat, right? And maybe
in Washington State, they give you a joint if you get a jab. The war over genetic privacy is just beginning. Speaking of genetics, here's a headline from our friends at Babylon Bee. Experts completely baffled as to where Joe Biden's son could have learned all that racist language. Who'd have thunk it?
Hey, I have a short video here of
Okay.
Was on the other topic about medical information.
Yes, sir.
I think you'll enjoy this.
Welcome. Can I help you?
Just like a table for one, flying solo today.
Sure. Do you have a mask?
No.
Oh, well then I'll just need to see proof of vaccination.
I don't know. I mean, my medical information's pretty intimate and private.
Sir, you're required to show us proof so you can be seated without a mask. It's not a big deal. It's just a protocol for everyone's protection.
Okay, but if I'm gonna come closer to you so you can see my medical records, I just need to ask, do you have herpes?
What?
Do you have herpes?
How is that any of your business?
How is that not any of my business? It's not your business, it's everyone's business. So, do you have herpes?
I'm not telling you that.
No. I'm requiring that you tell me. Herpes is a virus that infects 100 million people worldwide. It spreads like wildfire, and I want to ensure I'm protected against it from you. Do you have herpes?
No.
Ooh, no eye contact. I'll take that as a yes. Genital, oral, or anal? All three? You disgusting leper? Do you use ointment when you have an outbreak?
No.
Ew, super gross. Don't you know during an outbreak the viral shedding increases dramatically, therefore people's chances of contracting herpes from you go up significantly, even without sexual contact?
I didn't know that.
I'm gonna need you to use this ointment 6 times per day during an outbreak while isolating in your home, you disgusting bastard. How's your sex drive?
Good.
Do you always tell your partners in advance that you're diseased with herpes?
Not always.
I'm gonna need you to wear this for everyone's protection. Do you ever experience incontinence?
No.
Blood in your stools?
No.
Diarrhea?
Once in a while.
Ooh, how often?
I don't know, sometimes a couple times per week.
Sounds like some kind of intestinal parasite.
Really?
Yeah, they spread really easily in public restrooms via fecal matter.
Oh,
So please don't use public restrooms anymore. You're putting everyone else at risk of catching your worms. Oh, and your herpes, you disgusting disease bag.
Sorry.
What do you weigh?
192.
Okay. I think that's everything I need to know about you for my safety.
All right. So, if you'll just show me your proof of vaccination, I'll get you seated.
Oh no, I don't want to eat here anymore. You're not safe to be around in your compromised state of health. You're downright gross and objectively bad for people. No offense.
None taken.
Have a nice day.
Humor to make a point.
It does. It makes a good point, I thought.
But yeah, that makes a great point. Great point. I suppose we ought to take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk about, just to a few selected in our audience, about your whiteness. Yeah. Sorry, I got to talk about it. It's required.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
You missed the cue.
I'm sorry.
We're back now.
We're back now? Okay.
You forget to watch when that screen goes off.
I know.
You like to dump the gun every now and then.
Yep. Yeah, that's me.
What would you do without me?
I dream about that. Anyway, I want to talk about your whiteness, Mr. Anderson.
Oh, sorry, I haven't been out in the sun much.
Mm-hmm. Folks, I've been saying it for years. The most discriminated human in America is the white male. Especially if you're a little older, like Mr. Anderson, and a Christian like Mr. Anderson.
Oh, does that show?
And a baby boomer.
Like Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Yep. In a research article published last month, I can't believe this is America. I just cannot believe this. Look, I asked for it when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s. I asked for this. I asked for the freedoms. I thought I knew what was best. It's like those 5 and 8 year old children. Didn't really know what was best for me. Anyway, I digress. A research article published last month in the Journal of American Psychoanalytic Association researcher called whiteness, being white, a malignant, parasitic-like condition. The article, titled On Having Whiteness, was written by one Dr. Donald Moss, a white man who is a faculty member at both the New York Psychoanalytic Institute and the San Francisco Center for Psychoanalysis. Whoa. Covering the coast, from coast to coast. In the article, Moss wrote that white people have a particular susceptibility to the parasitic condition, which he claims renders its host appetites ferocious, insatiable, and of course, perverse. He explained he believed whiteness establishes entitled dominion that enables the host to have power without limit, force without restriction, violence without mercy, and increases one's drive to terrorize. You're a terrorist, Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry.
Moss, that doesn't help the damage that you're doing. Moss also postulated, speaking of damage done, treatment for the condition is effective treatment consists of a combination of psychic and social historical intervention. Such intervention can reasonably aim only to reshape white man's infiltrated appetites, to reduce their intensity, redistribute their aims, and occasionally turn those aims toward the work of reparation. Aha.
Well, what am I going to fix?
All the damage that you've caused for being white. When remembered and representative, the ravages wreaked by the chronic condition can function either as a warning, never again, or as a temptation, great again. Even with treatment, Moss wrote that there is no guarantee against regression, and there is not yet a permanent cure. We white? Yeah. We white?
We white. Hubby white.
The division that goes on.
Oh,
Our adversary is so good. He is so good.
Well,
and we really, really do like to help him.
Where do these people get these ideas from?
Pravda. From their father.
Their father, yeah. Father of lies.
Yeah. So, should we discuss any further your whiteness, Mr. Anderson?
I'm trying to hide it.
Yeah?
No, not really. I'm proud.
You're proud?
Yeah.
Proud racist?
I'm proud racist. Whatever that means. And I'm I'm happy. I'm a happy person, and I'm privileged, and I have all this stuff, and I can go into any restaurant and they're ready to sit me down immediately after I prove my vaccine.
Yeah. You're probably proud of your whiteness. I'd imagine you probably have white friends. Yeah. Don't try to deny it. Don't try. I even bet you have white family members. Yeah.
A couple popped out. Yeah.
Yep. Shame on you.
I don't know. You know what? I don't suffer much except for joint pain.
We need to quit smoking.
Yeah.
Or move to Colorado.
Yeah, makes me cough too much. Yeah.
I love it. We have a segment on the program called "I Don't Think So, Tim." I don't know whether we can. Probably ought to wait till the bottom of the hour to get into that. But it kind of we are so screwed up.
Let me play this little thing.
Okay.
It's from Andrew Clavin, and it's a little segment, and it's kind of interesting. Remember Barr, our Attorney General?
Yeah.
Well, there's a positive note.
They understand that the culture war is the war. Joe Biden is proposing a $6 trillion budget. I mean, it's just an insane amount of money he wants to spend. And one of the things it does is it installs guaranteed child care. Well, now we know, if you've been listening to me for the last half hour, now you know what they're going to be teaching your child while you're free to work. Nobody ever says, oh, moms need help, so therefore we're going to give them some respect and make sure their husbands are being paid enough so that they can take care of them. They never say that. They say the government has to provide child care. Why? Because once the government provides child care, they got you. Then they can teach you all the stuff they want. They can teach you exactly how to masturbate, how to build a whip. That was one of the things that was being taught in Ohio, how you can build a whip so you can punish yourself and punish your lover. They'll be teaching you all that stuff. The culture is where you teach people, no, I take care of my kids. We educate our kids. The government doesn't do it. The guy who understands this, and I know this is another guy that a lot of Trump people don't like, but I like him a lot, Bill Barr. The reason I like him a lot is because everybody hates him. When everybody hates you on all sides, especially in politics, and especially in politics today, you're probably going down a good road. Bill Barr made this speech. He won an award from a Catholic society, and he talked about education, and this is what he says, is cut 7.
This indoctrination, in my mind, is the greatest threat that religious liberty faces today. We're rapidly approaching the point, if we already haven't reached the point, at which the heavy-handed enforcement of secular progressive orthodoxy through government-run schools is totally incompatible with traditional Christianity and other major religious traditions in our country. And in light of this development, I think we have to confront the reality that it may no longer be fair, practical, or even constitutional to provide publicly funded education solely through the vehicle of state-operated schools.
That's right, school. And what he says is that he thinks that vouchers that give people school choice are the answer. This is cut 8.
In this environment, vouchers may be the only workable and the only constitutional solution. And they would promote diversity in education. You know, the left talks about diversity. They are not for diversity. They're for standardization. Diversity is freedom. Diversity is the ability to live your life and to hold views that may not be compatible with the dominant cultures. It's freedom. And we stand for diversity. And there's nothing to fear from diversity. There's nothing to fear from schools that parents set up for the education of their children.
You know, vouchers are good and school choice is important. And I think it's a battle that we have been fighting and winning and losing for years. But the most important thing, I'll show you the most important thing. This took place at Carmel School Board. Now, I used to be a reporter in Carmel. This was my beat. It's Carmel, New York. It's called downstate New York. It's not quite upstate, but it's not New York City. It's about 100 miles north of New York City. And this lady got up and started to give it to the school board because they were teaching this critical race theory, which is just racism. It's all it is. It's anti-white racism. And she went after them, and they did this thing where that they call tone policing. You know, we don't like the way you're talking. You know, I don't mind listening to your ideas. They mind listening to your ideas, or else they wouldn't have suspended the PE teacher. Of course they mind. They mind, or else they wouldn't be screaming, I don't want to re-educate you again and again. But they say, it's just your tone. It's just your tone. And she just blasted them. This is worth listening to. This is a mom in Carmel, New York at a school board meeting, cut 22.
Can we not let the public speak? Why can't we let the public know that you're teaching our children to go out and murder our police officers? Do you want the proof? I have the proof. Is that what scares you, the proof? That a parent actually standing up against all of you? Is that what scares you, to call out the names of these people? You work for me. I don't work for you. You have a duty. We are entrusting our children to you. We teach our children morals, values when they grow up to commit crimes and end up in prison and kill a police officer. It's our fault? No, it's your fault. You're emotionally abusing our children and mentally abusing them. You're demoralizing them by teaching them communist values. This is still America, ma'am. And as long as I'm standing here on this good ground earth of God, I will fight. And this is not the last of me you will see. I'm retired. I have nothing else better to do.
That's right. She's an at-home mom, see? She's not taking Joe Biden's child care, so she has time to go and protect her kids. You know, men will die to protect women. You know why? Because women protect everything else. Because women build everything else. Because women create what we are and what we have, and they will defend it to the death. They will throw their bodies in front of their children. They will throw themselves in front of these stupid school boards. This woman's not afraid of being canceled like the lady at Dalton is afraid of. You know, the women at Dalton, the people at Dalton have put so much money and so much effort into turning their kids into the elite. They don't want to lose that elite status. But this is the elite. This is the elite. These twisted, sick people who have forgotten. They have forgotten the obvious things. I mean, this is the thing. They think they're progressive, but they're regressive. They think they're discovering new things, but they're just forgetting the old things that made this civilization the greatest civilization that has ever been on the planet, and this country, the greatest country that has ever been on the planet. They are taking it apart not by going forward, not by progressing, but by going backward to where we were when we started, because we're so rich, we're so safe, we're so powerful that we think that the gods of the copybook headings can't come back with fire and sword, but they can, and they always do. They always do. Every great civilization.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
I wanted to remind you that we needed to take a break. Thanks, Mr.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
We're kind of working together here today.
I like the Klavan. There's so much there, so much meat there.
I thought he was kind of summarizing a lot of what we had been presenting this morning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't punish your children, your parents, your spouses for carrying the truth. Don't punish them. There are people that want to stand up and change things for the better in our government-run schools, with our health care. We're going to get into that in a minute. Don't punish them because they're not conforming, because they're not getting along. Remember the founders? They weren't conformists. And that's what got us to the point today where we're spoiled, like Clavin says. We are. The poor in America live like the rich in any other nation. And part of our problem is the affluence that we have. And bringing up children. I've talked to some baby boomers, and it seems to be common among a lot of baby boomers.
You've even talked to this one once in a while, right?
That they a lot of the baby boomers still don't know what they want to be when they grow up. And that's because they had so many opportunities and so much freedoms and so much liberties. It wasn't like, well, you had to be on the farm and you had to bale hay and you had to plow the fields. We had freedom to do pretty much what we wanted to do. And that's been part of our problem, the lack of structure. You know, I could get into the family, the lack of structure. Well, the same thing goes forward in life. But don't punish people that are trying to get us back to order. And I'm talking about natural order. I'm not talking about this insane anything goes disorder. I mean, we have a situation now where people are scared to death of a pandemic, which isn't a pandemic. But because we had the fox guarding the hen house, everybody believes that when the fox comes out and said the hen's okay, well, then we don't have anything to worry about. BS. We got plenty to work about. Plenty. One of the things we need to do, though, this is going to get into me. I don't think so, Tim. Remember Tim the Tool Man and his buddy? I don't think so, Tim.
Tool Time Tim.
Yep.
Tool Time Tim. Yep.
This is about us approaching things, in my humble opinion, the right way. So what you're going to have here on this item is a cross between I don't think so, Tim, and hey, sister. That really isn't helping. It isn't helping at all. The information I have, by the way, is from the Freedom Phoenix. And it starts out, a doctor known for her wild anti-vaccination claims has testified that COVID-19 vaccination causes recipients to become magnetized. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, an osteopathic physician. They have to stay osteopathic physician because they're not a real medical doctor. They'll use those terms, osteopathic, but they are. Some of the best physicians I've ever had were osteopathic physicians. Anyway, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny made this bizarre declaration, and they can call it a bizarre declaration. Whether it's true or not, it still is a bizarre. Is it not? The shot's going to magnetize you? Made the bizarre declaration on Tuesday at the Ohio State House at the Ohio State Health Committee meeting. She based her theory on a viral internet videos. This hasn't been studied, folks. Just like the vaccination hasn't been studied, this hasn't been studied either. So how can we criticize thoroughly examining it when we're making statements that have not been thoroughly examined either? Come on. Come on. This isn't helping, sister. I love Sherry Tenpenny. Don't get me wrong, but this ain't helping.
I do have a video if you're interested.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please. Now get back into this.
And some of the information that I think had been discussed on your podcast related to EMF frequencies.
That was a thought.
And
And it
would
was
you,
because
can you
now, because
elaborate
right
on
now
that?
we're all kind of hypothesizing. I mean, what is it that's actually being transmitted that's causing all of these things? Is it a combination of the protein, which now we're finding has a metal attached to it? I'm sure you've seen the pictures all over the internet of people who've had these shots and now they're magnetized. They can put a key on their forehead, it sticks. They can put spoons and forks all over them and they can stick. Because now we think that there's a metal piece to that. There's been people who've long suspected that there was some sort of an interface, yet to be defined, an interface between what's being injected in these shots and all of the 5G towers. Not proven yet, but we're trying to figure out what is it that's being transmitted to these unvaccinated people.
That's what drives me crazy. Hypothesizing is the term. How does that help our cause? Public opinion rules here, folks. And when you have somebody out there that is speculating 5G, magnetizing, hypothesizing, we've already had enough of hypothesizing. We need to get to the facts, folks. Sorry. I'll settle down. So the article says she based her theory on viral internet videos purporting to show vaccinated people sticking keys, forks, and spoons to their body.
I don't know that they're not using double stick tape, you know?
They put a key on their forehead and it sticks. They could put spoons and forks all over them and they could stick because now we think there's a metal piece to that. The doctor said on the House floor. She continued by tying her claims into another theory about vaccine containing microchips and using 5G technology. Again, this is all hypothesis. That's what we're fighting, folks. A vaccination that they think, hypothesize, is going to work, and they won't know until the lab rat experiments. What is it now? 80 million, 100 million Americans that are involved in this experiment. Until those experiments are finally conducted. And it's going to take 5 or 6 years to do that. We're still hypothesizing.
You make a good point.
We need to be very careful. This is a public opinion war. We need to be very careful what we say. I mean, here's my argument. The inconsistencies. That's not hypothesis. That there is a fact. Let's talk about that. And as a medical doctor, she could question that. But to throw this kind of information out there, I'm sorry. I don't think it helps. And I don't think we should be doing it. And I'm not too awfully sure it's even true. We don't know. I have a close relative that has been vaccinated. And they're running low on iron in their system. Maybe because of the vaccination. I can't say that for sure, but maybe because of the vaccination. But then again, I'm hypothesizing, aren't I? He said with a grin. Draws it causes the same. Hang on a sec. But because it's COVID stuff, it causes the same hemoglobin. Oh yeah, this is from a somebody that commented online. Anyway, they talked about who she was. I'll get to that in a moment. They talked about who Sherry Tenpenny was, and people have long suspected that there was some sort of an interface yet to be defined, an interface between what's being injected in these shots and the 5G towers. Again, speculation. Now, here's where I have a problem. Dr. Tenpenny was speaking in favor of Ohio State Bill 248, the Vaccine Choice and Anti-Discrimination Act. I like that, but I know it's going to end up being sausage. Maybe with her help, which should ban mandatory vaccinations in Ohio and prohibit schools and businesses from requiring the attendees from being vaccinated. Twitter users were quick to poke fun at her statements. As one Twitter said, "Wow, no words, odd thought. I can't get my keys or fork to stick to me anywhere, and I've been fully vaccinated. Wonder when this will start." Another Twitter user, DD Smith, wrote, This could be convenient. Never lose your keys again. Just stick them to your forehead. Thanks, Bill Gates. Another Twitter user wrote, so what she's saying is PPLs are turning into Magneto, reference to the magnetized X-Men comic book character. Now, of course, it is supposed common knowledge that the anti-vax claims about the COVID-19 have been thoroughly debunked since they first emerged last year. And then cite the example of Professor Michael Coey from the School of Physics at Trinity College, who called the claims complete nonsense and said that someone would need a grain of iron metal to attract and support. Anyway, you're going to get both sides of this, but you leave yourself open to the Twitter comments. You really do. Now, Sherry Tenpenny has a reputation. And she's long touted a number of other associations about vaccinations, including claims that they cause autism. In her own talk show, the 10 Penny Files podcast, she's going to have to rename that. She has also been a guest on a number of outlets. The site's homepage describes Tenpenny as being widely regarded as the most knowledgeable and outspoken physician on the adverse impact that vaccines can have on health. Tenpenny works at the Tenpenny, gives her work. And she also offers $595 8-week course in anti-vaccine talking points, despite a federal judge having found her unqualified to weigh in as an expert witness on vaccine-related lawsuits. There's a couple points here that no matter what we say, they're going to discredit it. You cannot prove that COVID-19 isn't a pandemic, that it isn't a threat, that we shouldn't be cutting down, yada, 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 yada. Comment from Ed Price. Now, folks, the idea of magnets sticking to the injection areas might not be crazy as it seems. Sure, there are fake videos about this, but consider COVID is a lung thing, and COVID patients can be breathing quite well, and yet the oxygen is not accepted into their systems. The problem has to do with COVID deactivating the hemoglobin and the iron, which normally picks up oxygen and transfers the oxygen through the blood all over the body. The vaccine injection site hangs onto a large amount of vaccine for many days, even months, but because it's COVID stuff, it causes a hemoglobin iron problem in the area of the jab. This draws iron from the spot throughout the body to try to heal the little spot, same as with the lungs. Excess iron in there, magnets stick to it. So he's stating, evidently he's got some medical knowledge, but we really need to be careful, because we're giving our opposition an out to say, oh, this is the person that believes in flying saucers or whatever. How can you believe that person because they believe this?
Well, then they summarize misinformation.
Yes, but you open the door for that.
Right. I'm agreeing with you.
5G.
And that's the label they tag on that stuff, and it discredits credible people.
3 vaccines when I went to school. Now it's at least 70.
70?
70.
Oh my.
And that's going to be growing, because the pharmaceutical industry, like government, once they get power, once the government gets power, they ain't giving it back. The pharmaceutical industry has been given money. They ain't going to give that back.
Well, that's the business of CDC. They own, I don't remember, several hundred patents on vaccines.
CDC does?
Yes.
Oh boy. Yeah, 70 vaccines. That's crazy. Here's what the opposition is saying, what they're going to say. Outspoken anti-vaxxer. See, the anti-vaxxers, they've already cleaned their clock. They hypothesize on some things that they couldn't prove exactly, although from what I've read, it's very interesting. I would want to limit the number of vaccination any child that I love is near. I would want to limit that, make doggone sure that they're necessary. But Anyway, outspoken anti-vaxxer Sherry Tenpenny told Ohio lawmakers that COVID-19 vaccine magnetizes people.
That's what they'll hear, yes.
Yep, boom. Sherry Tenpenny, magnetizing people. Ohio Bill 248, boom, boom, boom. The osteopathic physician said, there's that osteopathic, okay, that she's seen videos online of vaccinated people sticking keys, forks, spoons to their body. She spoke at a health committee. Yes, I would love to interview her on this show. You betcha. Probably won't be something happening soon after today's show. But anyway, I would love, I'd offer her, talk to me about it. Talk to me about it. She spoke at a health committee meeting in favor of Ohio bill that would ban mandatory vaccines. So we have an anti-vaxxer, no vaccine under any circumstances, anyway, no way. And she's a kook. She's a kook. How can you trust her? Tenpenny's claims have been refuted by experts in the field, and in the videos she mentioned have been flagged as false on social media. That's the only positive thing I could see from that. If it's been labeled false on social media, then good for her.
It kind of verifies it.
Yeah, it does.
It might be the truth.
It does. It does. It does.
The truth. You can't handle the truth. We have to keep you from it.
We live in a very interesting society. And I was speaking with someone the other day. Well, actually, there was a gentleman that approached. He's running for I won't mention the seat, but he's running for a political seat. And of course, he's different. He's a businessman. He's an entrepreneur. He's not a career politician. And all that sounds good. But what he had was solutions to symptoms. Everything we're seeing out here, for the most part, are symptoms. Now, the main cause is that we're an unrighteous nation. And you're going to get more and more of these symptoms because we're an unrighteous nation. We're going to get back to the natural laws. These are spiritual natural laws. The 10 Commandments are like a warning label on your life. And they warn against unnatural behavior. Think about it that way. That's the spiritual aspect of this. But you can see the physical manifestations every day. And I'll get to the family as a good example. Divorce, what does that do to the family? Not good. Not good. What does it do to the children? Even worse. Abuse. Taxes, taking money, hard-earned money away from people and forcing them to use a third party for things like educating their children. Both parents have to work now. That's pretty crazy. But the gentleman was speaking about all the problems and how he's going to do this and how he's going to lower taxes and how this is going to be more righteous and that was going to be more righteous. Right, in other words. And he claimed to be a Christian, claimed to be a family man. I don't deny that. I don't question that. But I stuck my hand up and I asked this question. How can you possibly turn things around in this nation? How can you possibly do that if you don't fix the family? Because the family is broken. And by family, and I explained this in front of a group of about 50 people, the family is one man. And then I said, and one woman, and then I corrected myself. I said, excuse me, one biologically born man and one biologically born woman in a lifelong committed monogamous relationship with their biological or adopted children. And he said, yes, I agree. And the crowd loved it. And then he went back to solving the symptoms. The results. of the broken family. Families where you learn morals, families where you learn authority. And that just isn't being learned.
Are fathers necessary?
I don't know. Do you have an answer to that question?
Maybe. You like Dennis?
Yeah, I
Prager?
do. Yeah, I was hoping you would mention that. Yeah.
Okay. We can maybe close out with a
Yeah.
positive message here.
Are fathers necessary? For all of recorded history, the need to explain why fathers are necessary would have been regarded as, well, unnecessary. It would have been like explaining why water or air is necessary. But we live at a time in which the obvious is routinely denied. There have been articles in the most prestigious journals denying the importance of fathers. The Atlantic magazine, for example, published an article titled, "Are Fathers Necessary? A Paternal Contribution May Not Be as Essential as We Think." The New York Times published a discussion among 5 intellectuals titled, "What Are Fathers For?" One of them, Hannah Rosen, an editor at New York Magazine, opened her response by stating, "I'm not sure whether a child needs a father." I could give dozens of such examples. I'll just give one more. HuffPost published a piece titled, "Fathers Are Not Needed." Fortunately, this dismissal of the importance of fathers is not universal. In a 2008 Father's Day speech a few months before his election as President of the United States, Barack Obama said, "Fathers are critical to the foundation of each family. That they are teachers and coaches, they are mentors and role models, they are examples of success, and they are the men who constantly push us toward it." What makes his comments particularly noteworthy is that Barack Obama grew up without a father. Both boys and girls need fathers. We'll begin with boys. A boy has no built-in understanding about how to be a man, meaning a good and responsible man. Male nature is wild, most obviously regarding sex and violence. If a boy does not have a father who models how a man controls himself, he will most likely not know how to control himself, let alone want to. That's why most males in prison for violent crimes grew up without a father. After days of riots in the UK in 2011, quite like the 2020 riots in America, Christina Adone wrote a column for the London Telegraph, whose title says it all. London Riots, Absent Fathers Have a Lot to Answer For. In the column, she wrote, "The majority of rioters are gang members. Like the overwhelming majority of youth offenders behind bars, these gang members have one thing in common: no father at home." There's no question that many mothers have done an excellent job raising a boy without their son's father, but common sense alone suggests that a mother simply cannot model what a boy should be any more than a man can model to a girl what a woman should be. And then there is the issue of controlling boys and their wild natures. Again, there are mothers who are able to do this, but if a boy is at all difficult, as so many are, as he gets older, most mothers will find it more and more difficult to control their son, because unruly boys listen to their fathers much more than they listen to their mothers, which is precisely why most violent criminals grew up in fatherless homes. They obviously did not listen to their mothers. As regards daughters, the father is the man girls learn to relate to. Without a father to relate to and bond with, there are at least 2 destructive consequences. First, she will not know how to choose a man wisely. She will not know how a man should treat her, and she may well end up with a man who mistreats her. Second, to fulfill her desire to bond with a man, as primally yearning in most women as bonding with a woman is in most men, she will go from man to man. Girls without fathers in their lives are far more likely to be sexually promiscuous and to begin sexual activity at an earlier age, which in turn are reasons many young women are depressed. Few women find sleeping with man after man fulfilling. Most find it ultimately depressing. Finally, fathers give both sons and daughters the thing children need most: a sense of safety and security. As much as children need love, they need a sense of security even more. And in general, moms give love and dads give security. I learned how necessary fathers are, not only by having one and being one, but by the many people, men and women, of all ages, who have told me that they see me as a father figure. I am honored to fill that role. The good news is that many men can fill it: grandfathers, uncles, teachers, mentors, clergy, and yes, even a man on the radio. But some man has to be your father. I'm Dennis Prager.
This video is made possible by a generous donation from the Coutinho family.
Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please.
We're going to leave with that note. Fathers, be that this weekend. Be with your families. Doesn't have to be a special occasion. Doesn't have to be Father's Day.
Well, that's coming up
next week.
Next week.
Yep. B.J. Edwards, along Mr. Anderson, your last call. Thanks for listening in today, folks.
Gotta find that.
Join us next week for Last Call with B.J. Edwards.